Hey, what's up you guys? You're watching Team APS. In today's video, I'm with Alec again, and we're going to talk about
top 5 draw cards. Number 5, Pot of Duality.
Yeah, the card, let's see. So what's there to say about this?
Well, are we assuming they already know the effect?
Yeah, at first short, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you pick one and you add it to your hand, the rest gets shuffled back in. You can't special summon the turn that you use it. I remember when this card first came out, and it was like a huge deal, especially for anti-meta decks.
Oh yeah.
That didn't have a way to reliably search their monsters, and so this really helped them out. And it was also very expensive, as the new pot cards tend to be. Not all of them, but most of them.
I remember Monarchs loved this card.
Yeah.
When it came out.
Ooh, yeah, for sure. Because usually you were just tribute summoning.
It's a powerful draw card. It didn't hinder them any.
What I always liked about Pot of Duality is that it lets you dig into your deck. So, like, rather than say, maybe it's something like Upstart Goblin, where it's just like you draw and whatever you get is just what you're stuck with. With Duality, you do get to, like, look at the top 3 and pick. So, even though you're not getting to draw 3 cards, you're still going 3 deep, if that, like, makes sense. So, it kind of like makes you think about like Balbaboon is these days, where like you're kind of getting like picked stuff and
you get a choice with him.
Yeah, so that's always been a cool part about Duality.
Duality is one of those cards that it needs to be on the list. It still sees play even today.
Right, that's true.
For as long as it's been around.
Demise True Draco uses it. A lot of slower paced decks use it.
Demise in the name of the deck, but we're not getting into all that.
So what would you say is the weakness though in it? Keeps it from being higher up.
Well, Pot of Duality's main weakness is you can only use one pot per turn. So,
right.
I mean that's a lot of these cards, but some of them that don't have that restriction.
It's the no special summon, I think
that's its main issue. But I mean other cards have gotten away with it,
Yeah, it just means I think that what kind of hampers it is that there are special summon stoppers like Card of Demise that, hint hint, are better than Pot of Duality because they get you more. So for some people, it's like, well, if I'm gonna lose my special summon for the turn, I'd rather use something like Card of Demise, right?
Why not both?
So you can't really use Duality in like the combo heavy fast decks. So it does have that limitation, I think.
You never get a combo heavy normal summon based deck. Number 4. Wait, how are we counting this?
I guess 4.
4.
Yeah.
With an Upstart Goblin. I really wanted this one on the list. It's been in the game for so long. It's been at 1 for so long.
Yeah. It was like, it's been a few years now.
Like, it's just that
you draw a card.
It draws a card. It replaces itself out of his hand and allowed for people to run. At one point, you could run 47 cards.
Yeah. Or you mean 37?
37.
Or 47, you're running 50.
That's what I made a mistake on.
No, I get what you mean. Cards. Yeah, I think that what's kind of neat about this card is like, it's the only draw card that has purely nothing else involved. I mean, your opponent gets 1,000, but whatever. Who's counting?
Negligible.
And like you said, it's just running fewer cards in your deck. So whereas you have to kind of take a bit of a risk with like say Desires or Dualities, with this it's just like you play and profit. There's no restriction to how many times you can activate it.
Yep.
It just happens to be at 1 now, but it wasn't always. So there's that.
I mean, there's plenty of decks that got a lot of use out of it. Just decks that really, the hyper consistency decks that are just focused around
seeing a combo piece.
Get certain cards in my hand. I don't even really want 40 cards. Let me run these triple upstarts.
Yeah.
Fill this deck up nice.
It reminds me of like Exodia decks where that was a lot of what they did was just like running triple upstart and when Chicken Game and stuff was around. That is all those kinds of just instant draw cards. That's all they really wanted.
I just need to pick up my cards, man.
A card that didn't make the list actually. Shoutouts to Into the Void. Just barely didn't make this list.
Same general purpose.
Yeah, same thing really. It draws you a card, but at the end of the turn you have to discard your hand. So like, its purposes are really niche.
It's really like a worse Card of Demise.
Yeah, it's like Card of Demise before Card of Demise. It's like Card of Demise and Upstart. Kind of like
they
had a baby, that's what it would be. Speaking of Card of Demise, that's number 3. So there's actually quite a lot to say about this card because it's sort of a newer one. It came out in the last few years.
But since it came out, there's been so many decks built around it.
And there's a lot of controversy about it too. Some people, for a long time said this card needed to be limited or banned. But the way it works is you draw until you have 3 cards in your hand, but for the rest of the turn you can't special summon.
And on the end phase.
And in the end phase you lose all the cards in your hand. I think your opponent doesn't take damage that turn, or is that something different? I don't know. Anyway, you'll see the effect on the screen.
Fair enough.
But those are the 2 big restrictions of it. Card demise can feel really broken at times.
Abusive.
Like when you're playing it in the right kind of stun deck. Like we always know Demise, True Draco, but even excluding them.
There was Demise Cosmo.
Yeah, there's Demise Cosmo, Demise Yosenju.
Demise Yosenju.
Demise Fleeforts. Any of those and the anti-meta stun decks that just have a lot of traps and just set everything. Then they activate Demise, and then they just like get 3 cards to their hand. Like it's a huge
I hate
draw.
it when it's like spells and they can just flip that stuff up.
Yeah, because they just set everything and then like they use a card Demise, get 3 like free cards, and they start flipping terraformings and whatever upstarts and all these other spells. Or I remember like with Cleaforce they could just activate their scales and that would like empty out their hand, and it honestly felt pretty overpowering at times, but it's not without its weaknesses. It's really only usable in an anti-meta deck generally.
Because losing your special summon for a turn, and if you're not playing anti-meta, that can just...
Yeah, it can. I agree. It can like kind of restrict you, and then there's also the whole, you have to kind of run a deck around card demise. It's not the type of draw card you can just toss into anything.
Yeah, you're gonna want a low monster count.
Right. You don't want it because you don't want these cloggy monsters that you can't summon that just end up having to get discarded.
But you also don't want cloggy traps that you can't activate and just line up your background. You can't set anything else.
Yeah, but the reason why I got so high on this list is because in the decks that it does well in,
it does it.
It feels extremely powerful. Demise, True Draco, obvious things. So that's number 3.
It's being played in what, Mystic Spiral decks now too?
Yeah. Alex uses it in
you can
Phantasm
check out
Spirals.
that profile.
And that duel.
Link in the description.
Yes. So what's number 2?
I put my phone down. Number 2. You probably wouldn't guess this one's at number 2, but you knew it'd be on the list. Pot of Desires.
Yeah. Now this is a pretty fun, controversial one. At least when it first came out.
It's what would you call it? A pot of greed with a cost?
A pot of greed with a very steep cost. But a pot of greed nonetheless.
Yes, you will be getting your 2 cards.
You will be getting a pure +1.
But you are losing 10 cards top of your deck. Banish face down.
Unrecoverable except from, the handful of things.
Situation.
So, what do you think of the card? You've been using it in a lot of different decks.
Oh man, so ever since I got my copies, I was trying to put that thing in every deck I play. That's one thing that's cool about Pot of Desires. It's pretty accessible for just about any deck. Now, if you want to run it optimally, then you have to make some very, you gotta be conscious of it. So, if you're gonna be banishing 10 cards top of your deck, you're gonna want to run triples of a lot of things.
Yeah.
So you hopefully don't lose them all. And then, even if you do that, you will still have
They're gonna be those games.
where you're gonna banish all copies of a crucial card, and you're gonna hate yourself.
So the question is, and this is what a lot of people, feel like. I think the whole Pod Desires as a -9 thing is complete. That's malarkey. That's not how that works. It's a +1. In card economy, it's a +1. It's just deciding if the risk is worth the return. I think the risk is worth the return. To be honest, that +1, I've used it in a few different decks now too. I think that just that pure plus and digging that much through your deck is worth it. The way that Yu-Gi-Oh works now too, where it's all about powerful first turns, losing those cards in the long run isn't going to hurt you if the game doesn't last very long, which it tends not to these days. And if you're running a deck that, like he said, has multiples of stuff, then that alleviates a lot of that risk. I think the card's great. I really do. I also like that it's more affordable now. It's like maybe $25 or so.
Ever since the reprint got announced, people are, and the latest decks don't really get a whole lot of use out of it.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's one of those cards where, like, if you've been one of those people who's always against Desires, you should honestly, you're doing yourself a disservice not to at least try it out.
Unless you're playing a combo deck. I say that's the one type of deck that doesn't get...
Yeah, you don't quite want it in there.
Combo decks, they tend to do a lot of searching. They run some one-ofs, and Pot of Desires isn't kind to that.
So, yeah, I definitely think it's deserving of number 2. I think it edges out Card Demise because more decks can use it than Card Demise. But they're very close.
Now, You might not have guessed our number one, but I think you'll understand why we picked it.
Maxie.
That's right.
So, this card is at 1, but
And it needs to be.
for a very good reason. Maxie is deceptively powerful. I think that only in recent years have people truly appreciated how strong this card is. I've actually said for a long time I think it's one of the most broken cards in the game. Maxie, if you're living under a rock,
utility.
whenever you can discard it from your hand to the graveyard, and then this turn, every time your opponent special summons a monster, you immediately draw a card. It's crazy because it does the job of a hand trap, of a draw card, and kind of a just anti-special summon all in one card. Because think about it. If your opponent's going first and they're about to do a bunch of summons and you pitch Maxie, then they're faced with a choice. Do they want to commit a lot of resources and stuff to the board, but in the process give you 4, 5, 6 cards in your hand for free for your next turn to just use against them? Boom. Or, what if you have an established board of a few different boss monsters and your opponent has a way to get around them, but you use Maxie? So now they have to exert resources to deal with what you currently have. And then
giving them resources for them to rebuild their board next turn.
Yeah, so it's just Maxie just kind of solves so many problems.
And think about it in game 2, after the siding happens.
Yeah.
Then it's now the drawing is more dangerous because your opponent has sided specifically for you.
And you really don't want them to see any floodgates. You don't want them to see hand traps.
The kaiju.
It's really kind of crazy how strong Maxie is, and I was surprised when they put it to 2. I thought that they would just immediately put it to 1, but now it is. I think it's well deserved. I think it's a really good card, and
even at 1, it's annoying.
The one problem with it I have, honestly, is that at 1,
it's not at 0.
Yeah, because at 1, it's whoever draws it probably wins if the other person doesn't draw it. It can feel that way sometimes.
Yeah, it depends on the matchup, but for a lot of decks, Maxie is
Maxie sucks to see. It's the vanity's emptiness almost.
That's kind of why that's why it's cool to have our anti-hand trap cards.
Yeah. So that concludes our top 5 draw cards in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. There were honorable mentions Into the Void and
I want to shout out to Trade and Allure. We finally moved on.
Yeah. And there's a lot of draw cards. I definitely think that these are the tip of the iceberg. But if we're wrong, you can let us know down in the comments. There are plenty of others.
They will let us know.
And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and all the other nice stuff. I think that's going to be it. So remember, it's the summer of Yu-Gi-Oh! We're uploading every single day. So catch yesterday's video and subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's. It's going to be it. Bye, guys.
Pass turn.